should have been a simple errand, bread, milk, nothing more. But then came the voice that froze the entire aisle. "Ma'am, stop right there." A police officer's command cut through the quiet hum of the store. Shoppers turned, eyes wide, as a young black woman clutched her basket stunned. "What? I didn't do anything." Her voice trembled, but the cop didn't hesitate. "Empty your bag, now." The shelves seemed to close in as whispers spread, some horrified, some silent with fear. She wasn't stealing, she wasn't resisting, and yet, in that moment she was already condemned. The real question is, what happened next that left everyone furious long after the aisles went quiet? Her name was Maya, 28 years old, a nursing assistant who worked long shifts caring for patients who rarely remembered her face but depended on her gentle touch. She was the kind of person who smiled at strangers, the kind of neighbor who'd hold the elevator door just a little longer. To most, Maya's life seemed ordinary. Rent to pay, bills stacking up, and a dream of saving enough to go back to school. That afternoon, she had stopped by the store on her way home, tired but relieved. A few groceries, maybe a treat for her younger sister waiting at home, that was all. The aisles were familiar, the kind of place where nothing ever happened. But behind that sense of routine lurked something she could never have prepared for. A man in uniform was already watching her every move, narrowing his eyes with suspicion she hadn't earned. The truth was simple. Maya only came for groceries. But what awaited her was humiliation so deep, it would ripple far beyond the walls of that store. Maya moved through the aisles slowly, basket in hand, humming faintly to herself. To her, this was routine. To him, the officer who had just entered, it was suspicion. His eyes tracked her every step, as if waiting for proof of a crime that hadn't happened. She noticed it at first in fragments, the heavy boots echoing behind her, the shadow that seemed too close. She reached for a carton of milk and his voice cut through the air. "What are you hiding in that bag?" Maya turned, confused. "Excuse me? I'm just shopping." But already heads were turning. Strangers leaned out from the cereal aisle whispering. The officer stepped closer, one hand resting on his belt, the other pointing at her tote bag. His tone hardened. "Empty it. Right now!" Her pulse quickened. She wanted to shout that she hadn't done anything, but the words stuck. Instead, she placed the basket down and slowly unzipped her bag. Out spilled the most ordinary things. Keys, wallet, scrubs from her shift, a half-read book. No stolen items, nothing, but the officer wasn't satisfied. "Where's the receipt?" Maya's hands trembled as she fumbled with the slip of paper the cashier had given her just minutes earlier. She held it out, praying it would end there. But instead of checking, he snatched it away and crumpled it in his fist. The crowd gasped. "You think paper proves anything? I saw you. You're hiding something." The humiliation burned deeper than fear. Every pair of eyes in the store was on her now, some glaring with judgment, others frozen with guilt for doing nothing. She tried to steady her voice. "I have nothing to hide. Please, you're making a mistake." The officer smirked, as if her pleading only fueled his authority. With deliberate slowness, he grabbed her arm. The grip was firm, unyielding like iron shackles. Maya flinched. "You're coming with me. We'll search you properly outside." The words sliced through her like knives. Outside meant exposure, being dragged in front of strangers branded guilty before she could even breathe. She tried to pull back, but his grip tightened. Whispers grew louder. Phones began to rise. Someone was recording. Another voice in the crowd muttered, "She didn't do anything." But no one stepped forward. Not yet. Maya's heart pounded, each beat louder than the last. She thought of her sister waiting at home, of the patients who depended on her tomorrow, of the way this single moment could stain everything she had worked for. And then, just as he yanked her toward the exit, an older woman's voice cut through the chaos. Firm. Unshaken. "Let her go." The officer froze, if only for a second. Maya's breath caught in her throat. The crowd stirred, torn between silence and courage. This was no longer just about groceries. It was about dignity, about power, about a fight Maya never asked for but could no longer escape. The officer's grip tightened, dragging Maya toward the sliding glass doors. Her feet scraped against the polished floor, her breath ragged as whispers exploded into shouts. Phones were everywhere now, red lights blinking, the truth captured on shaky screens. Maya's voice cracked as she pleaded, "Please, I didn't do anything." But her words were swallowed by the officer's bark. "Stop resisting." The lie cut through her like fire. She wasn't resisting, she was fighting to keep her dignity. Yet in that moment, he turned her into the villain. The crowd flinched as he shoved her against a shelf, cans rattling to the ground. A child cried out in the distance. An elderly man shook his head. Still, no one stepped forward. Her face pressed against cold metal. Her wrists twisted painfully behind her back. For a split second, her mind flashed to every headline she had ever read. Black lives broken in moments like this. Names whispered in protests. Lives reduced to hashtags. Was this how it ended for her? And then chaos. A voice rang out louder than all the others. "We're filming everything. Let her go." The crowd surged, no longer silent. Shoppers stepped forward, their cameras raised, their voices united. She didn't steal. "She's innocent." The officer's jaw clenched. His eyes darted, calculating. For the first time, he realized the power was slipping from his hands. Still, his pride chained him tighter than any badge could. "Back off, or you'll all be charged with obstruction." But the tide had shifted. This was no longer Maya against one man. It was Maya against a system, and the world was finally watching. Her heart pounded, caught between terror and a flicker of hope. The crowd grew louder, closer, and the officer's grip faltered ever so slightly. And in that breathless moment, Maya knew something was about to break. The store was no longer silent. Voices rose, cameras rolled, and the officer, once so certain, found himself cornered by truth. His grip loosened, his authority shaken, as Maya pulled her arm free. Shaken but unbroken, she stood surrounded not by shame, but by witnesses who had finally found their voices. The manager rushed forward, urging the officer to leave. Reluctantly, with a glare that carried no power anymore, he stepped back. The crowd closed around Maya, some offering words of comfort, others simply pressing record to ensure her story could not be erased. She wasn't just a woman shopping for groceries anymore. She had become a mirror reflecting something much bigger, something much uglier than a single confrontation. That night, Maya sat quietly at home, groceries untouched on the counter. She replayed the moment in her mind. The shove, the lies, the humiliation. It was over, but it wasn't. Because the weight of what happened in that store wasn't hers alone to carry. It was part of a story told countless times before, in countless places, with names that should never have been forgotten. And here's the truth. Maya survived, but she should never have had to. This wasn't about a receipt or a bag of groceries. It was about the danger of being seen as guilty before you've spoken a word. About how quickly dignity can be stripped when prejudice hides behind a badge. So ask yourself, how many more times must we witness this? How many more lives must be humiliated, broken, or lost before the world finally refuses to look away? Because Maya's story is not just hers, it's ours. And what we do next decides how it ends. If Maya's story left you angry, heartbroken, or determined to see change, don't stay silent. Share this video, leave your thoughts below, and let the world know these stories cannot keep repeating. Because the more we speak, the harder it becomes for injustice to hide.